How are you, everybody who is watching this fantastic video? My name is Olenjolaim TAYAI Losingo. Just simply call me Sir Olenjolaim. I'm founding, or I'm just conducting this program from my own country, United Republic of Tanzania, just simply called it Tanzania, eastern of the African continent. We are very happy to have every national and international student. And I would like just to tell you in advance, I have a good news for you, especially if you are a student or you're a learner in the field of engineering, whether ordinary diploma or you're doing undergraduate studies. Possibly this information can help you if you're doing postgraduate, but I'm not actually concentrating and focusing on postgraduate. I'm focusing on ordinary diploma and also undergraduate level. So I would like to take this opportunity right now just to welcome you into one of our online institutions that call the Online Undergraduate Polytechnic Institute of Tanzania in square bracket Olenjolaim. Currently, we have one of our YouTube channel that's called the Online Undergrad Polyinstitute of Tanzania in square bracket Olenjolaim, where that we are trying our level best to post at least a video in a day. So, I would like just to ask you that to be a serious student, because we are very serious on this program. We are focusing, we are not entertaining you actually, we entertain you in terms of engineering, because if you understand the beats or the frequency or the pitch of the engineering, then you'll find that instead of learning, you are not only learning, but you are getting entertained. But if you laugh and you understand what you are learning. So one of the questions you're asking yourself that what visions do we have? Well, that's a very good questions, because we know that from the facts, and especially in the book of Proverbs 29 verse 18, the word of God says that where there is no vision, people perish. So if we are members of Online Undergraduate Polytechnic Institute of Tanzania, in square bracket Olenjolaim, and then we don't have any visions that we have to impact it to our students, then we are going to perish. We are the teachers or leaders of these online institutions, and even if also our students, they are going to perish. So these divisions, just I want to declare, we have a special video in our YouTube channels that called Lecture Zero, the general introductions of Undergraduate Polytechnic Institute and Online Undergraduate Polytechnic Institute of Tanzania in square bracket Olenjolaim, where we spend almost an hour to explain the vision, because actually this is the generational program. So we've been doing this business for a long time, and we are going to do it for a lifetime. So we want our members or participants to understand where are we going. Simply, we have an assignment to teach, train, incubate, mentor, and even lead some group of students who are ready to extract, not to take, to extract, just like how we extract metals or non-metals from the ground or from the air ores. So we have an assignment to teach and incubate and mentor and even train some group of students who are ready to extract knowledge and deal with them from the formal and informal education in undergraduate, especially in the field of engineering. And also will be ready to extract the wisdom and knowledge from the Word of God, combining these combinations or these kinds of the unity extractions in order to solve real life problems. So our main objective in Online Undergraduate Polytechnic Institute of Tanzania in square bracket Olenjolaim is not to help you to pass your continuing assessment. It's not to help you to do well in your project. Our main objective, we have an assignment to teach and train students to solve real life engineering problems. I know what I'm telling you, it might be sounding completely impossible. Well, myself, I'm a product of what I'm telling you right now. I began to enjoy the fruits of what I'm telling you. So I will be taking you step to step. It can take several months or several years. But really, I want to tell you that you should be serious. Because we used to go to school in order to get knowledge, understanding, and the wisdom, and solve the real life problems. To me, it is meaningless if you are a graduate in undergraduate level and hence you are not capable to solve any real life problems. Because we have so many real life problems in our communities, in our families, in our villages, in our cities. So we have been surrounded as the human beings, and especially Africans, with so many engineering problems. So if everybody is quitting and then expecting to get employed and then get the salary and then wait, just having kids, and then finally going to the grave. Who can solve our own problems? So I know what I'm telling you and what I'm saying, it might be completely opposite for millions of Tanzanians and even some Africans. I understand what is that. But I'm ready to pay for the cost because, as I said, I'm ready to move with few students who will be ready and who will understand what should be done in our community. So whether you're continuing students who are watching right now, whether you're graduate students, you still have a chance. I want to challenge you. There is a unique problem that God has given you as an assignment. You should make sure that you solve it before you die. Regardless of your priorities, you want to get certificates for undergraduate, for postgraduate, for masters, for PhD. Okay, that is part of your goals. But another thing which I want to insist to you, there is a problem waiting you to solve. So you should not dishonor yourself. You should not discourage yourself. You have always to encourage yourself that there is a problem, a real life engineering problems waiting me to solve. So you have to make sure that you remind yourself and you sing that chorus of that song every day. And I want to tell you that your life will be transformed from a theoretical engineer into the practical engineer. All right? So I think that you got my point. Well, so you have so many departments because this is the online institution, so we don't have any physical institution. We are delivering everything online, so you should be good in digital technology. And then so you have so many departments. One of the departments is called the Higher Engineering in Electrical, Electronics and Computer Science. Simply this, we can call it the departments of electrical engineering and computer science, because electrical engineering is the math of electronics engineering. It's a math of computer engineering. It's the math of telecommunication engineering. It's a matter of computer science. So that's why. So just for me, because I will be using this simple language to make sure that the students understand what am I doing. But in case that they really want to construct the departments, I could call the departments of electrical engineering and computer science. But I provide mostly contents for the 5 fields, because we'll be focused on the 5 fields. Maybe 6 fields. We'll be focused on biomedical engineering, focus on electronics engineering, focusing on telecommunication engineering, focus on electrical engineering, focus on computer engineering, and focus on computer science. Another thing which I want to tell you that these contents might be universal, might help any students around the world. But we are paying the focus to the Tanzanian syllabus, which have been prepared by the TCU, that are crediting all the universities that providing the knowledge based. And also we'll be focusing on the curriculums and the syllabus of NACTE, that is accrediting all the technical institutions across the country. So now it's a time for the Tanzanians to enjoy what they have to enjoy. So it's a matter of yourself. If you enjoy, it's fine. If you hate, it's fine. Because these contents will be helping millions of the students in the world. So it's a matter of yourself. You have a choice whether to accept it or to disagree. Right? But remember that the truth always, whenever that you disagree, we'll find it one day. Okay, so I'd like to welcome you into the course that we are going to focus today. It's called the Project Conceptualization. See, in some of the universities or institutions or colleges, this one is called the Junior Project Team. So don't worry about the name. The way, the formality of engineering project is actually the same, regardless that you are doing your project at the Dar Ministry of Technology or you're doing at the Arusha Technical College. So that's not the matter, right? The structure is closely similar. Okay, and hence we are in lecture 2, which is called General Introductions of Engineering Project. General Introductions of Engineering Project. Ladies and gentlemen, let me link this lecture 2 with lecture 1. So in lecture 1, we have mentioned so many things. Number 1, in lecture 1, I have explained to you, I've explained to you distribution of 40. So let me do the quick review if you forgot. Distributions of marks. Okay, and the marks of the project in each semester is 100. So we say that the first 10 marks will be awarded when you are doing your first main presentation, because you should remember that. And the second 10, the other 10 marks will be rewarded for the second main presentation. And the 20 marks will be rewarded from your supervisor. And then the 50 book, the project book report. Let me just insist this one. the project book report. This is the heart of the project conceptualizations. Project book report. This one, it has a weight of 50 marks. Wonderful. So 50 marks. So when you say 50 marks, for especially because the CA is 40 marks, and this 40 marks, this includes 10 marks of the first mean, plus 10 marks of the second mean, plus 20 marks of the supervisor. So total is equal to what? 40. Then you have final exam, or in some of the universities we call it the UE of the project. This has a weight of 60 marks. With these 60 marks, 50 marks is for the project book report and 10 marks for the final presentation. Final project presentation. Right? Okay. Okay. So this is 60 marks. So you see that. So whenever you write a project book report, you have to know that you are answering the final exam. I know many students, they don't know. They can think that the project book report, however, that your supervisor also will reward you some marks when you are submitting your project book report, because you should work closely with your supervisor. Once you finish, maybe to write one chapter, you have to consult your supervisor just for corrections and reviewing, because he will reward you these 20 marks. In most cases, the supervisor will extract it from your project book report. So in other words, the project book report itself, it does not have a weight of 50 marks. It has a weight of 70 marks. Wonderful. Okay. Why it is wonderful? Because the supervisor, the weapons, the assessment modality is the project book report. He'll be submitting, right? He can attend the first main presentation, but he will provide you some marks within the 10 marks. He might attend the second main presentation, but he will reward you the 10 marks which are available there for the second main presentation. That's why sometimes you can book the panels and then you don't find your supervisor. That's not a deal, because it does not affect other panel members. They can continue to listen to you. Those are the secrets I'm telling, because myself I have been a student of engineering, so I know from the side of the students. Good news also, I have been a tutorial assistant at the departments of electrical engineering at the Islam Institute of Technology, and I've worked with them for the 2 years. And I've been attending the panel for almost 6 years. So I understand what is going on there. So some of these are just kind of the secret. In case you understand that your project book report now is carrying 70 marks. So to me, I just dedicated my time, regardless of how busy I am. I have to make sure I have 3 hours in a day to write a project book. And that's a secret. Whether you are busy or not busy, the project book report is very important too. Wonderful. So again, I mentioned about the introductory. We said that the project has 3 parts. The first part is called the introductory part. So this introductory part, just we say, it begins from the we call it the outer cover, which contains the project title, details, and then this goes up to the list of abbreviation, if you do remember. And they say that in this lecture, or currently, we won't deal with these parts. And we have to number this in terms of Romans, maybe Roman 1 to Roman 9. So I will teach you later. And the one very important part of this is abstract. I've mentioned there. Abstract is executive summary of your project report. Okay. Then we came into what it means the project report itself. So in the project report itself, we say that we categorize this concept report, we categorize it into chapters. So if you say we have chapter 1, which we call the introduction. We say we can have chapter 2 in some of the departments, which is methodology. Okay, so methodology, etc., etc. But always the last chapter, either for the project conceptualization, should be conclusion. Right? Then I say that in the lecture 1 we have been focusing on introduction. Say introduction. So I gave you example of my project book reports, which I read it. I didn't write on the blackboard. So for example, this is chapter 1. So how do you write? You just write, you have to make sure that this is centered in. Okay? Means that, for example, suppose that here you're writing a project book report. So you say that, so it means at the center you write what? Chapter 1. Chapter 1. So chapter 1 is what? Introduction. Okay? And then we say that this chapter 1 introduction, it has several parts. Okay? The first part, because this is chapter 1, so we write 121. So this one, we call it introduction. So we begin with capital letter. But we write, remember that this chapter 1 should be bolded, and just we use always the font, right, of 14. This introduction should be bold, and we use the font of 14, right? This introduction should be bold, and we use the font of 12. And hence we have to say something that the style of the writing the words is New Time Roman. Those are very important. I remember that some of my classmates, their books, 7 books, have been rejected by the project coordinator because they didn't follow the rules of writing the project. So you have to be serious. So I have told you in the previous lecture what should the introductions contain. And hence I mentioned the second part is called background information. So background information, you just write in lower letters, but the first letter should be always capital letter. And this should be bolded also. Then the third part, which I've explained, is problem statement. So problem statement, just right away I'm telling you, or I'm showing you, problem statement. So you should include this numbering because later on we refer. So once we want to refer the problem statements, we just refer section 1.3. Okay? So today, I would like just to, before I take you, because for example now the next step is 1.4, which you call objectives. So objectives. So all of these should be lower cases, but the first letter is is capital letter. And you have to bold. Sajibo, you're not writing today. What? Where is your copybook? Why are you not writing?
I'm listening.
Huh?
I write, so I
listen. You have some more extra time, eh? Okay. So in objectives, just let me just go and give you this arrangement and we discuss. So this is kind of, so when I start this one, this is now the beginnings of lecture 2, because I ended that terms on the problem statement. However, before I teach about objectives, I have to go back to the title, because there's a relationship between problem statements, main objective, and the title. So here, it means that we have 2 objectives in any engineering project. The first objective, we call it the main objective. You just write the way I'm writing on the blackboard. Some other students, they used to do mistakes. They used to write all of these informations in capital letter. That's wrong. Because once you are writing the project report or the project book, we expected that we are speaking to the different engineers worldwide. So we should have a standard way of writing. When now you go further for the postgraduate studies, when you'll be doing your research, then there it means that your research should follow all the international standards. So that's why that we are giving you guidance. Because you can say that, what if I write the capital letters, I write the small letters, I don't bold? Then it is meaningless. Then the next part, this is 1.42, is called specific objectives. This is all about chapter 1. So main objective is 1. Specific objective is more than 1. Okay? Then we go for the section 5, 1.5. So here, I say that we are going to have significance of what? Significance of the project. We have significance of what? Of the project. Importance. What's the applications of your project after it has been accomplished? But another part which is very important, which is 1.6, ladies and gentlemen, and graduate students who want to enjoy the beauty of electrical engineering or computer engineering, or maybe telecommunication engineering or electronics engineering. You know these fields, I don't know about you, but for myself, I love them. They are in my heart. And I want to tell you that I will be dealing with this stuff for the rest of my life. I don't know about you. Tell me in the comment section. Possible that you will tell them goodbye after your graduation. But I want to say sorry, because you have spent almost 16 years to learn something that you're not going to apply in your life. So then, the next part is, we call this scope and the limitation. What is the scope and limitations of your project? Then the last part, which is 127, conclusion. But this one, it's not general conclusion. This is called the chapter conclusion. So chapter conclusion. So you see right now you have the light. This is all about chapter 1. Especially for those departments which distinguishes, which categorize the chapter 1 as introductions and chapter 2 as what? Methodology. Listen carefully. For some of the departments, for example, that in electrical engineering of Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology, chapter 1 involves all of these informations, but involves also something we call it methodology. So you should not get confused. In case in your departments that the chapter 1 should include methodology, you just continue 1.8, 1.9, 1.8. You should not get confused. Right? Because methodology is something else. Right? So for example, if you be involved in methodology, then you say 1.8, for example, methodology. So remember, the first letter is capital letter always, methodology. Right? So then 1.8, maybe 8, the first methodology you are going to use is literature review. In case, literature review, etc. So 1.82 will use data collection. 1.83 will use data analysis. All of them. So, project is not difficult the way that you think. It's just a matter of having clear information. And there's no need for you to have a battle with your supervisors or battle with your panel members, just like a battle that you know. No. You have a good sense. You are very intelligent. You are a very intelligent person in this world. So there's no need just to have battles, because you don't know. If you don't know, you don't know. That's all. Agree that I don't know. Show me the way. Okay? Because I know some of the other students, they are making like just the first minute or second minute is like a battle. So yeah, I'm going to fight. Will your system work? Yes. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And then you find that the system even is completely disconnected. Okay. So I gave you the overview. So this is the way that, so for example, if you have your project book, you just list all of this, and then now you start writing out the contents of introduction, the contents of backgrounds, the contents of problem segments. So you see that things now follow the order. And you see the good sequence of your project work. Okay? In case you have any question, don't hesitate to ask in the comment section, please. Okay. So, after giving you that fundamental concept of how you arrange your information, ladies and gentlemen, right now, I would like to take you into the project title, or into the title of the project. But before I teach you about the title of the project, let me teach you about the main objective first, and then I'll take you back into the title of your project. Because the title should reflect on the problem statement and the main objective. I believe that you are ready for that. But again, you can ask yourself some questions that maybe introductions, what the difference between these introductions and this introduction. Listen, this is introduction of the chapter. Even sometimes can say that introduction or chapter introduction. So sometimes you can write chapter introduction. So this is the general introduction is what you have written here. But this is chapter introduction. Each chapter, for the good project report, each chapter should have an introduction, and each chapter should have a conclusion. And then the project book should have the general introduction, and the project book should have the general conclusion. So you have to distinguish chapter introduction and the project introduction. And you have to distinguish chapter conclusion and the project conclusion. Are we together? What I'm teaching you took me 7 years to gather what I'm teaching you. But remember, what I know about project or engineering projecting, to my side, is almost 10%. So I'm still looking for the 90%. Again, remember that Sir Olenjolaim does not know everything concerning about the electrical, electronics, computer, and biomedical project or engineering projects. I just know a small portion. But I have an assignment to teach others what I know. Because you know some other students they say that, oh, seem like you are very abnormal. This is what I know and I have an assignment to teach others. It doesn't mean that this it means that I know more than other people know. Right? Yeah. And then I want to tell you that 90% of what I'm teaching you, I learned it informally. When I say informally, nobody taught me, except take the grace of God. Right? So 10% possibly is what I learned in the class. So if you are still a student and then you are waiting, this is stuff in your class, keep on waiting. Possibly they will come, either by miracle or by imaginations or by dreams. Okay, so let us focus into 1.4. 1.4, we say that the subtitle is objectives. So you can provide piece of information concerning about the objective and then we go to mention. So the objectives, you can just give the brief introduction that the objectives, just a single sentence, a single brief sentence. The objectives of this project, the objectives of this project, okay, are divided into two parts. You can say that into two, or you can say that into two parts. So when I say two, remember that you are not entertaining numbers, two parts. Okay? So the next step we just mentioned. So you say that 1.20.4.1.4.1. The first part is called the main, so you can use there, or you can use the word main objective. This is the first part, main objective. Okay. My online students or students who are watching this say main objective. Main objective. Even some physical students that I have in this class, you can just pronounce it. Just pronounce it loudly, right in your mind. Main objective.
Main objective.
Yeah. So remember that this should be a capital letter, and it should be bolded. So what should you include in your main objective of your project? That's the next question. Number one. So the main objective, first of all, is the main objective of a project, whether diploma project of a project, should be one. Should be only one. At the first sentence. You can have a project, you can't have a project which have two main objectives, or three main objectives, or four main objectives. So you see, the project is really challenging students because it has to, if you are delocalized, you have to be localized. When I say delocalizations, for those who did, who learned about the aromatic compounds, organic, they know about the delocalizations of electrons in the benzene structure. So you find the electrons is shifting. So if the information in your mind is always shifting, you are saying something because you want to say, in project you have to be localized. Right? So that's the first point that I want to make. The main objective of a project should be one. Should be one. Okay? Should be one. So you have to review your main objective. Whether you are explaining or you're presenting one main objective, or two, or three, or four. So you have to adjust yourself. Again, we say that the main objective, it means that the main objective should state, okay, should state what the main objective of the project, should state the just to say that the entire work. Entire work that will be done. Will be done. When you say the entire work, what are you focusing? Are you solving a problem? Yes. How are you going to solve the problem? Whether that I'm solving a problem by using implementation. So you say the main objective of this project is to implement dash. Right? Against, how are you going to solve that problem? Okay, I'm going to solve this problem by design. So the main objective of this project is to design. So it means to design is the entire work. It means that it's a whole work. It means that from the beginnings of your speech, of your project book, we expect you to see the sequential order of designing. Right? So that's what we are saying, that the main objective should state the entire work that will be done throughout the project. And mostly, in most cases, for example, for BEng, okay, for bachelor engineering students, we used to say that the main objective of this one, dash, is to design. In most cases, to design, dash. So to design its entire work that you are going to do. So from the first chapter to the conclusions will be design. We'll be following, it means that we'll be build up the general concepts of design. So at the end, we find that, okay, this is my design. Right? For already diploma, for OD, they could say for the year level, the main objective of this project is to implement your team, dash. Right? However, that I know some students, they confuse the word design and implement. Implement means you're implementing a particular solution. So it means that the suggestions or the suggestions of how that problems will be how that problems will be solved is not. So diploma students or non-diploma students, they used to implement. But undergraduate students, we say that you have to learn on how engineers design systems. Then you are outside of this class. Okay. Another thing that you have to include in your main objective, you say that the main objective, okay, should mention what? Should mention the work expected to be done. So when you say the work expected to be done, in other words, you say that the title should be done throughout the project. I'll give you an example. Remember that the main objective should be one, and should be one sentence. Sometimes it can be one or two sentences. It's short, but that one or two sentences should be strong enough to mean that to include all of these informations and all of these, I call them, these are kinds of the bonds. In Swahili we call it mifupa. So I'm giving you the bonds, the contents. Then the main objective also, should state the purpose. The purpose of what? The purpose of implementing for diploma students. Implementing means this is for OD, because this material also are relevant for ordinary diploma, or the purpose of 40, or the purpose of designing. Designing what? Designing your system. Why are you designing? Okay, why are you designing? Why do we need? Why are you designing? You are designing for what? You are designing in order to have your design at home? Why are we designing? You are designing just in order to please your lecturers? Why are we designing? We are designing because that you want to be in the list of designers. Why? So tell us the purpose of designing a system. Alright? So you can add so many information that you get from your supervisor, from some graduate students. These 4 contents, believe me that you'll find them are common for everybody who is well equipped in the conceptualizations of projects. Because you should love this stuff in order for you to have the information in your mind. If you don't love them, you learn them and then you leave them. And then your mind is just moving, but you don't remember anything else. Okay? So now, let me give you an example. Because this is short, I will just give you example 14, example of our main objective. Let us put in practice. Please, 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 in online undergraduate Polytechnic Institute of Tanzania in square bracket Olenjolaim M, we are not teaching students to cram. We don't know how to cram, and we don't know how to teach students to cram. And also, we are not teaching students to copy and paste what we are teaching them. But our foundation and our main goals, or our main target, or our main style, or our main achievement is to help everybody to understand. When you get understanding, then you can use your own words to explain what you have to explain. So this is the warning for those who are copy and paste students. I did another project, it's quite different from yours. So if you'll be following this lecture video, and as you are following it, and then you copy and paste, my dear students, I tell you that, first of all, we call it plagiarism. You are deviating the laws, you are copying somebody's work. Right? Because I know some of my friends or some of my students, they say, okay, just Olenjolai, give us the stuff, we copy and paste, we copy and paste. Life is simplified. Life is simplified. Yeah, yes, yeah. And then you find that you are destroying your mind. Okay, so you can say this one. Okay, the main objective of this project is to design the low costing. I'm giving my own example, wireless crack detection and the monitoring system. Okay, monitoring system. System for monitoring continually the state of the building, the state of the building, okay, the state of the building, okay, the state of the building. Okay, the state of the building, and notify the user or the owner, not the user, the owner of the building, the owner in case of unsafe condition. Unsafe condition or unsafe conditions. Remember that I said my project is that the problems I was solving, I was designing this. The problems I was solving is existence of cracks of the existence of cracks in the buildings located at Wado Hills near the TCCP cementing production company. So this is my main objective. It can have 2 sentences, can have 1, so you have to be a skillful writer. So the main objective of this project is to design. So I say the main objective of a project should be always 1. So first of all, you have to check, is this main project 1 or 2 or 3 or 4? It's 1, to design. Then we say that the main objective should state the entire way. So the entire way from the Chapter 1 of introductions to the project conclusions, I will be thinking on how, or on the different parts, on the different constituents of of designing. Right? So the entire work is to design. Then we say that, so that's I say that it is to design, and I say that it is what to design. Then we say that the main objective should be mention the work expected to be done, title through the project. These words, low cost wireless, for example, that the low cost is the word wireless crack detection and the monitoring system. This is the name of 40 of the work that is expected, I was expecting to do entire. These are the sum of the words that if you go back to my title, you'll find them. Right? To design low cost. You can find in my title, on writing title, I didn't write low cost. Why? Because I want to write a brief title. So some of the details you'll find them if you go inside the book. But you know, some other students, they used to write an essay. The title is an essay. It comprises a very long, more than 15 words. Right? So that is due to the poverty skill of writing. Then, why should they design this low-cost wireless crack detections and monitoring system? It's not mandatory for every engineer to design the detection system. However, that the project, actually the ordinary diploma are the ones that have to design the detection system just to detect it, maybe detect something, detect the presence of the person, detect the presence of the cows, take the presence of the car in the car, maybe for example, take the presence of a booster when that maybe you want to, it means that you are driving your car backward, right? Maybe there is a certain booster or there's a stone or there's whatever. So that's for ordinary diploma. But for if we include something we call it monitoring, that is actual, it's a great work compared to detection, because you just detect and then you notify the person, that's over. But in monitoring, because the detection, for example, for a booster, okay, by the driver, that happens maybe once in a year or in a month. But monitoring, it means you can monitor the system maybe 6 hours a day or 12 hours a day. So there are so many works that have to be done. And that's now, it's real proportional to the level you are as an undergraduate student. All right? So why should they design this low-cost wireless crack detections and monitoring system? In order, that's what I say, that the main objective should state the purpose of design of your product. Why are you designing? In order, means that we say that for monitoring what? Continually, the state of the building. And then, when it is monitoring the state of the buildings, once the system detects there is unsafe condition, what does it mean? For example, let me just explain that, because when I was doing this problem, suppose that this is the wall of the building, right? This is the wall of the building. Then I have my system here. I have a sensing unit here, which we call the vibration sensing unit. So this sensing unity is actually that measuring any kinds of the cracks, detecting any kinds of the cracks which can appear, happens there. So when the system detects the presence of of the cracks, that's what we call unsafe condition. It has to notify the owner of the house. So the owner of the house will be informed that at this point, however that I don't see externally, but inside there is a crack. So you can take your precautions before this crack develops into larger and larger and affect the entire structure. So it doesn't mean that every engineer has to design a system like this one, has to design a system that is detecting something, has to design a system of monitoring something, has to notify the owner after detections. That's not the mandatory. It depends to your choice of your problem. But remember, for the ordinary diploma students, they can just detect the presence of it or whatever is the presence of the person, and then take a small action. But you, as the engineer, you should not end on detections. You have to detect it and then state engineering or technically, how you can solve the problem. Right? So for this problem, the system itself, it cannot fix the problems or the cracks. But this system will help the owner of the house to be informed once a small cracks develops in the building. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the point. So I'm waiting your main objective and tell me, I think that write your main objective and then just share with me in the comment section there. I will see it. I used to see all the comment sections, all the comments. Share with me. I'll be happy to know whether you understood or you misunderstood. And the main objective is, for example, if I show you my sentence that I wrote for the first time when I was doing the project proposal, it's very poor. I wrote a very poor main objective, but I have been spending much time in thinking, consulting, gathering knowledge, and getting some information and advancing my main objective every day. Because when the external readers will be having your books, they don't have time to read you entirely. They just know important and essential parts. One of the parts is the main objective. If you deviate and if you be having a poor or you'll be writing a poor main objective, you will be mislead your supervisor, mislead the panel member, you'll be mislead the external supervisor, and actually that you are going to harvest a low marks because you don't understand what you are solving. Again, as I say that, the main objective is kind of now you are start explaining the solutions of how you are going to solve your problem. Right? Because in problem statements, I say that there is a what? Frequently, it means occurrence of what? Cracks. Right? And then here now I say, in order to solve or in order to detect and monitor those cracks, I have designed a low-cost wireless crack detections and monitoring system. So the main objective actually is an answer of the problem statement that you've stated. Are we together? So if you don't have a problem statement, so you have a main objective for it, what are you solving? That's why that in many presentations, students, they used to fail. Why? Because they don't know the problems they are solving. They can spend too much time on explaining the solutions where the problems is not there. Are we together? Are we together? So I used to hear hundreds of students when they come and consult me about the year project. When I hear them, I hear students for 5 minutes. Not only you, even myself, when I was a student, for 5 minutes. Then the students spend only 20 seconds to explain the problem. And then 4 minutes and the 40 seconds to explain the solution. And you see that actually this is the crazy presentation. Because you spend a lot of energy on explaining the solutions while you didn't even understand the problem you're solving. So that's why that you find the battle. You can say that, oh, my lecturers have dealers, they don't want me to be awarded the degree and whatever, and I know them, and they have a plan to disco me, or just to make me to retake. You have so many informations while the problems relying on what? On you. In case you have any question, it doesn't mean that I've poured out everything concerned about main objective. I'll be teaching you day after day. In case you have any questions about the main objective, please don't hesitate, ask in the comment section there. And then I'll try my level best to help you, or even some other students also can help you. Okay, so then, so we are done with this. So we are done with this. 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 So now we have to go for the specific objectives, and then significance of the project, scope and limitations, and then the chapter conclusion. The rest will be having in the next session. Okay, well, so now let us go the hardest and very interesting and more technical part, which is called specific objective. Ladies and gentlemen, pronounce it with great joy. This word called specific objectives. Say with me, specific objectives.
Specific objectives.
I say, if you love engineering, speak it loudly when you are happy. Specific objectives.
Specific objectives.
should be bolded. You should not underline, because sometimes you know that some other students used to underline. That's wrong. That's not acceptable. So specific objectives, this is the one of the hardest part. And I want to tell you that this is more technical part rather than what the intellectual part. The rest of the project, the rest part of the project, we used to speak or use the intellectual language. Okay. So what do you think about specific objective? First of all, you have to understand, what does the word specific objective mean in normal English? Specific, be specific. My friend, be specific. What does it mean? So take a minute and think before even we write a specific objective for a project. Then you have to understand, because these words, these subtitles reflect the meaning of what we expect to see. All right? I believe that it's not your first time to meet with the word objective. I believe that it's not your first time. Okay? I believe that it's not your first time to meet with the word specific. So what does it mean? Just take a minute and think about it. What are the meaning specific objective? What does it mean? Specific objectives. And main objective. What the difference between main objective and specific objective? Before even you write, you should know. You should have the general concept. So you should know that, oh wow. So in this part, we have an assignment to say A, B, C, D. Did you get a point? I know that for the many students, they can find that my teaching is confusing them according to the previous information they have. But really I want to tell you that I'm not here to confuse you. I'm here to tell what should be done. I'm here to tell you what should be done. Whether you accept or you don't accept. I don't spend much energy to convince you to accept. You'll accept and you'll find what I'm teaching you right now. You might find that at the present situation, you are in a comfortable zone. You have a previous book, previous project book. So you find that you're in a comfortable zone. But there is a day and there is an hour when you find these contents and you will start understanding them step to step. Again, I would like to ask you that to share this channel or our YouTube channel, to share this video with some other students around the world, in your institutions, in your college. So you have to share, okay? So that they understand what we are dealing with. So, life. Okay, so with this specific objective, so actually we used to mention specific objectives that 1, 2, 3, 4. But because I'm teaching you, I'll be writing some instruction or some information. Remember that just this is the one of the part that we can spend some few minutes, but significance and scope and limitations, these are just short, because significance is just the advantage of your project. What will be the advantage of your project? That's all. So you know that when this project is accomplished, it will be doing or it will be saving 1, 2, 3, saving cost, minimizing time consumption, whatever. Very simple. And also about scope and limitations, then every project should have a scope, what will be covering, and also every project should have what is limitations. What are the limitations? You cannot design a project and then it doesn't have limitations. Even your smartphone has limitations, your iPhone has limitations. How about your project? Does not have any limitation, it means it can work in any environment. No. If, for example, you design a system that can work in the land, if you take in the ocean, then your system is going to die, it won't work. That's the one of limitation. So you want the students to say, oh, hey, I don't know how to write limitation. Really, you didn't understand what you are doing. So let me write a brief introduction, just like what you require, and then we'll mention, we'll teach you how you mention the specific objective. Okay, so specific objectives actual, first of all, this part, it breaks the main objectives. It breaks the main objective, singular, into small parts. Small parts, right? Small parts. Again, all specific objective should have the following characteristics. All specific objective should be measurable, say measurable, should be able to measure, and at the end of your presentation you have to show the quantities, measurable, testable, okay, testable, and then so we have some other things, so measurable, testable, and even also can have some other things. Okay, so measurable, testable, and and specific, etc. Okay. Again, we say that these specific objectives also. We say that they should be relate. They should relate with your proposed system. Actually, we formulate this specific objective from your proposed system. So they should relate with the proposed system. Or in other words, we break the blocks, the blocks of proposed system into small functions or small activities. Okay. So these are the key points that you have to remember. It breaks the main objective into small parts. Again, all specific objectives should be measurable, testable, specific, etc. And then these specific objectives should relate with your proposed system. Let's say that we break the blocks of proposed system into small activities. So, once you want to write good specific objectives, first of all, you should draw the good proposed system. Right? That's the principle. Or you can write good specific objectives, but you should have the good or the clear proposed system in your mind. Otherwise, the situations will be tough for you. You'll be roaming around. Alright? I know this is one of the challenging part in any project. You understand? So, now, it means that, ladies and gentlemen, let me, before just write a specific objective, let me just come and focus a little bit. I will have a lecture on proposed system itself. But because we cannot formulate the good specific objective relating on our project, so I have to touch about specific objective. It's inevitable for me, for you to understand. So we say that the general proposed system of electrical, maybe you can say electronics, maybe computer engineering, maybe telecom, maybe medical engineering. What is system? The system of that ones. So you have general proposed systems or general control system, called general control system. So this one, it includes mainly 3 parts. The first part, we call it input. Input unit. Then the outputs of input unit will be fed into control unit. And the outputs of this control unit will be fed into the outputting unit. Outputting. So this is the general block diagram. So general block diagrams of the proposed system. General block diagram of proposed system. So this is for any field of engineering, even mechanical engineers, they understand this general block diagrams. So whenever you want to solve any engineering problems, this should be in your mind. First of all, it should be in your mind. You should think what the input of your system, you should think what the control units of your system, you should think what the output units of your system. Otherwise, you will be a political engineer. And it's really surprising that you find undergraduate students, maybe a few weeks before completion of his or her own degree, he or she doesn't know the input of his or her project. It's really surprising. Because how did you propose that project which you don't understand? Okay? So this is the general block diagrams of what we propose, the systems of electrical engineering. But we can advance this proposed system further. Right? How do we advance? So look. So you have also the general, let's say you can have the general design or general block diagram. Okay, general block diagram or general literally. So you can say literal because this is general, it's a big picture, literally. So general literally block diagrams of electrical, okay, electronics and telecommunication, then maybe computer, we just use these abbreviations, or medical engineering, just like this one. So generally we expect your system, you can expect, generally we expect the end of your system or any engineering system to have basically 5 parts. 4 to 5 parts. Just means that we can say that the big picture. So simply this general block diagram to go to the big picture. You can have more parts, but this is the big picture. So the first part, we call it the power supply, because we know you're going to design electrical system. So the first part is power supply unit, because we know your system has to get power. Then the second part is control unit. And before control unit, always you should have an input in any system. You have to think what the input of my system. So if you don't know the input of your system, you have the time now to challenge yourself when you are taking this material. What the input of my system? What the input? The input is the sensing unit. In which sensing unit? What the signal that is going to be taken? So you say that here we have input 30, input unit. So this input unit is providing power, providing signal into the what? Providing signal into the control unit. Okay, so then this is what? Control unit. Okay, control unit. So here we have the power supply. So your control unit, it's electrical system, whether PLC, whether you're going to use microcontroller, whether you're going to use maybe Arduino board, whether you're going to use Raspberry Pi, whether you're going to use maybe a computer in some aspects, whether you're going to use the PLC or digital PLC, whatever. we know that all the control units, peripherals, all the control units need power. So if you have a control unit and then it does not receive any power, then we'll have so many questions about your system, how will it work. But also most of the input units needs also power. And then possibly that, as I said, we can have another block. Another block here. So we have another block. This is what? Output unit. Okay, output unit. Like this. But also output unity, in order for it to do the desired or to provide the desired output, it should need power. This is the general block diagrams. And always, because the control unit is a heart of your design, we expect it to be larger enough, and even sometimes you can find that it is, so we say that it is what? It is long, it's large, compared to other blocks. So this we call them blocks. So block, block, block. So remember that, listen carefully. This is power signal. Power supply. And then this is what is signal. This one. This is not the line that shows power. This is signal. And also this is signal. Okay? So signal, signal. This is control unit. So this is the sample 40 of sample 40 of general block diagram. In the input, you can have more than one block. You have two blocks, maybe in an input systems, you have maybe something else, and then processing the informations, then goes into the another part, and then that another part feeding into the control unit. It doesn't mean that your block diagram should have only 4 blocks. It can have 4, 5 blocks, 6 blocks, 7 blocks. It depends. But those blocks should be logically well connected. Okay? So then, again, we should be not happy to draw the block diagram. You have to understand how does your system work. Right? What does it mean? So it means this is the input unit. First of all, what's your input unit? Possibly you have a sensing unit. Possibly your input unit is a keypad. Possibly your input unit, it can be maybe RFID. Your input unit, it can be maybe a fingerprint sensor. Your input, it may be maybe analog sensor. It can be a digital sensor. It can be a potentiometer. It can be a buttons. It can be maybe a signal from a signal from a transmitter. And this input unit is a receiver, receiving and feeding into the control unit. So don't think that these things are simple like the way you think that, Olenjolai has taught me the general block diagram, so I'll be using that ones. No, this is the general overview. Again, in case of power supply, we have so many different types of electronic power supply. We have a linear power supply. You can use a switch mode power supply. You can use AC power supply. So it means that we have different ways or different power supply. You can use adapter power supply. An adapter is a power supply, right? So it depends. When it comes to control units, we have so many control units. It starts from the integrated system. For example, you can use an op-amp. An op-amp can be the control unit of your system, right? Also, 555 we can use a 555. It can be the contents or the components. It can be the output, the control unit of your system, right? When it comes to the output unit, we have tens, means that we have hundreds of the output unit. So you say output unit, for example, the fins an output unit, a modex an output unit, a basics an output unit, a speakers an output unit. Then, for example, a LCD display is an output unit. Yes, so again, another thing that, yes, we have so many different types of output unit, right? an iron, an electric iron is an output unit, and air conditions is an output unit, right? So we sometimes the output units you can have some other parts. Maybe you have a switching unit, etc., etc., etc. Right? So this is the big picture of general or general detailed block diagrams of electrical or electronics and communication, computer engineering, or biomedical engineering, in case that it does not involve any wireless communication. So if your system has wireless communication, then you have to modify these block diagrams a little bit. So if you don't have any transmitters or something we call transmitter and receiver, you don't have anything about GSM modules, you don't have anything about RF modules or whatever, you don't have any means that maybe I will use the IoT, or I will use maybe the Bluetooth communications or Bluetooth modules or whatever. So it means that in case you are doing that problems or you are doing that project, then it does not have any communication. And the communication part that we'll be focusing is wireless communication part, because it is common in most of engineering problems. Do you understand what am I teaching you? Or you are just listening and sleeping or slumbering? So this was part A. So part B, if now block diagrams involve the communication unit. So the power supply unit always should be there. You can design, you can use already made. So this is power supply unit. So power supply unit. Then here we have what? We have our control unit. Okay, we have our control unit. This here we have what? We have our input unit. Remember that I'm building the input unit. And this input unit right now, let's say that example, sensing unit. Because it's sensing what? Sensing unit. Suppose that I'm using the sensing unit. This is control unit. We don't mention which control units are we going to use, even if we know. This is the control unit. And then here we have maybe output unit. You can have maybe switching, but it's not common. Some of the systems, they don't contain the switching unit. So this is what output unit. Output unit. But it should be specific in case of your project. And then here we have now a new block. And this new block, it involves what? Transmitter. Transmitter. Because in case of wireless communications, we should have a transmitter, we should have a receiver. That's the principle. Because you're transmitting information. And then here we can have another block of 40. Let's say that we have another block here. And this we call it in telecommunication a block of 40 receiver. I'm not teaching about proposed block diagrams. I'm teaching you how you can formulate specific objective from your proposed block diagram. I know some other students that they say, sir, you have to keep on explaining. Really, you are helping us. We just have copy and paste the proposed block diagrams. We don't understand how the signaling is going there. Okay, so then we have to, okay, so this is providing the input signal, and here we have the output signal. Here we have the power supply, and here also we have the power input unit, and here also we have to power our output unit, and also this receiver should need what? So the receiver of your system also should need power for it to receive the transmitted information. So it should need power. But also this your transmitter also, for it transmit information, should need power. So you see that now we have started advancing. We start building something new in your mind. Okay? And this is, when we understand this, there's no need for you just to cram this information. For me, I didn't cram. I'm just taking them from my brain. Okay? Then the control unit also is going to give the information into the transmitter. Like this. And then this transmitter is going to transmit this information wirelessly. This is the symbol for the wireless communication. But let me redraw it well. So there's no any physical connection between receiver and routing and transmitter at the meanings of this symbol. So this is the wireless symbol. So this also we call transmitter unit because it can involve more than one components, and this we call the receiver unit. So even sometimes you can find that in your projecting you can have more than one output, you can have more than one input unit. It depends. For example, in your project you can have maybe 3 sensors which are detecting different parameters. Maybe one sensor is detecting gas, another sensor is detecting pressure, another sensor is detecting maybe volume, or maybe it's detecting about the touch, or detecting about the sound. So you can have a sound sensor, you can have also vibration sensor, you can have also light sensor. So all of those are the input. It means they're consisting, the input unit can just say the sensing unit, right? So some of the projects or many projects actually they have the sensing unit as the input, but some of the projects they don't have. For example, if the input unit of your project is keypad is not it's not a sensor, right? It's not a sensor. So don't claim that in your block diagrams you should have a sensing unit. The sensing unit is mandatory as the input unit. That's not true. You have to understand what the input of your system, right? Don't just write, because when you be writing your system, you cannot say that the input unit. For example, in my project, I used the vibration sensing unit. So I just wrote vibration sensing unit. I didn't write the input unit. For the control unit, you always write control unit like the way it is. However, that some of the teachers, whether in panel or whether in your survivor, will ask you and pressurize you to define your control unit, to mention whether it's microcontroller or it's a Raspberry Pi, because I was explaining the control unit can be maybe 5 timer, it can be an integrated circuit, it can be analog, maybe it can be op-amp, or it can be microcontroller, it can be Raspberry Pi, it can be a computer, it can be what PLC. So some of your survivors or your panel teachers will actually recommend you and pressurize you to mention what? To mention which control unit you're going to use. But technically that is not correct, because you will come up with the answer of that question when you do the analysis. Because you should use the control unit which is going to fit to the demand of the case study of your project. Right? Because you can say that I'll be using the PLC, while maybe the power supply of PLC should be maybe the alternating current, the AC. While the place where you're going to install your system is in a village, remote area, where there's no electricity, you'll find the running cost for your systems will be high, because you should find what you should have a generator to generate AC power, and then you have running cost for the fuel, right? In order to run your generator. While you can think about some other control units which are low power control units. Are we together? So you should not be in battle with your professors or with your lecturers or with your teachers, with your tutorial assistants, with your assistant lecturer. Don't be in battle. Just tell them I will come up with a specific control unit after I go to the site, I collect the data, I analyze, then I will find the suitable control unit. Are we together? I know that is what I'm teaching is completely different from what you have in your mind. I know that. I know it's this the battle I'm doing between Olenjolai's mind and his student's mind. It's a battle that's going like this one. Because I'm trying to inject in you information, and then your mind saying no. I know. But it's a matter of yourself. Okay. So again, remember the transmitter units need power for it to transmit the information. So this control unit, after processing the input unit, remember that this is the input unit. We don't have any input unit from these lines. Right? Are we together? And then after processing, then it can provide some information to output unit. It can be a display, the LOC display unit. It can be maybe a switching unit first, and the switching unit is going to control maybe a fan, or it's going to control electric current, it's going to control a light or a bulb. You see? So that's all about output unit. But again, you want to provide the information. Maybe you want to notify the owner of the house that maybe now, whatever, maybe the fan or whatever, the power went out, etc., etc., etc. So you can have a stationary or a fixed system that will have output when the owner of that house or whatever, or that industry will be there. And then you can have, also you can add the value of your project or not, providing the information once. So this is not limited with sorting profession. Are we together? Guys, we still have a lot of things to cover. So I don't want to go into too much of about the proposed diagrams. From this one, we can now formulate specific objectives. So remember that I am a teacher. I've been called by God to be a teacher. So any teacher, any colleague teacher, should always leave the homework to his students. And I remember right now, I left my homework in session 1. Where is my homework? Even my physical students didn't submit my homework here. And now they are chatting. Where is my homework? Eh? So your homework, so let me just mention here. So this is homework 2. Before I wrap, homework 2, say homework 2. So your homework, you have to explain, or you have to mention, means you have to explain what? Explain what? 1.5, 1.6, and 1.7. So you have to write significance of your project, scope and limitations of your project, and chapter conclusion. But let me help you some piece of information, just to define. Significance of the project, you have to tell us what will be the advantages of your projects after it has been completed. What will be advantage? You are designing a system for TANESCO. How will TANESCO benefit from your project after it has been completed, successful? Right? That means of 40 significance. You can have 3 significance, 4 significance, 5 significance, 6 significance, but 6 is maximum, it is enough. 5 is enough. Because we know if you give you too much room, you can write an essay. Because you know that always you think writing so many informations will help you to score so many marks. In project is inversely proportional. I've learned some students who had a project book of just 50 pages and then they scored it A, while some other students which their books are 100, they scored it C. So for project, having so many pages, it doesn't mean that what you're explaining is relevant. It should be selective. Tell your neighbor it should be selective. Scope. So scope, it means that the capacity of your system. What will it cover? The capacity. For example, in my system, I said, if I have my sensing unit here, right? This one, it can only monitor only this side. So that's the scope. Or if I have my system in this house, it cannot monitor the nearby house. So the scope of this project is just for one residential house. Or it's just for one side of the walls of the residential house. Then limitations. Every project should have limitation. You have to differentiate limitations and recommendation. For example, you can build your systems and work effectively in the lake rather than in the ocean. So you have to say that this system, it can work effectively in the lake, but it can't work effectively in the ocean. You can give the reasons why, or you cannot give. Then chapter conclusions. You have to learn how you conclude the chapter, how you conclude something else that you are telling. Right? You learned it in technicality, skills. So you have to apply technicality, skills. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like just now to mention the specific objective and then we end the session. Gentlemen, I know you have been dancing on the chorus of this lecture 2, that's called the main objective. So let us now go to the verse 1, verse 2, intro, bridge, and whatever of the song by mentioning the specific objective. Suppose that this is our block diagram. Suppose this is our proposed block diagram. So figure, so you should say, let's say 4.1, this is what proposed block diagram. Sometimes in some of the projects you can have 2 block diagrams. One is block diagrams for the transmitter, other one is the block diagrams for the receiver. For instance, in my system I had 2 block diagrams. One block diagrams was what collections of information sending to the transmitter and giving the output there, but it is located only on the wall. While receiver, you can allocate it whether in your bedrooms, whether in your toilet, whether in the next room, maybe for the tall building, so that receiver will be receiving the information of the entire building. Because you know the buildings consisting of so many floors, so many apartments. So there's a local outputting in each wall, right? But it means that the superimposity or the gatherings of the results for the entire buildings, we receive them in the receiver in particular place. So you can have 1 block diagrams or you can have 2 block diagrams. And if you have 2 block diagrams, we expect to have 1 block diagrams. It's a collection of or it's a combination of the different units for the transmitter and different units for the receiver. So how about your block diagrams? Do you have 1 block diagrams or 2 or 3? Or for some other students, they used to have 5 block diagrams. And unfortunately, you find they don't understand any block diagrams among the 5. Okay, so now we think that we are in 1.42 specific objectives. So in specific objective, you have just to list. We don't write any words that special objective, should be realistic, whatever, and measurable, testable. No, those just for learning. But when you come now and write specific objective for your project book, you have just to mention. How are you going to explain them when you be presenting? Will defend each specific objective. So the common first specific objective is to establish the design specification. So the first common specific objective to design, to establish the design specifications. Say to establish design specification. This, in the mind of many students, is something new. To establish the design specification. Establish the design specification. Is that correct sentence? To establish the design specifications. Yeah, that's a correct sentence. Say design specifications. What does it mean? Listen carefully. We have a particular project of OLENJOLAI here. And then you have another project for May. And then you have another project maybe for Makila. You have another project from Saligua. So, maybe we are solving the same problem. But when I'll be designing now, or when I'm processing, I can have my own figures. So there is OLENJOLAI figures, meanwhile is particular or specific figures, Makila specific figures, and also what is Saligua specific figures. What does it mean? We can be solving, for example, these 3 or 4 engineers, they are solving the same problem. But, for instance, OLENJOLAI is using the power supply of 12 volt, while May is using the power supply of 9 volt. So those we say that are design specifications. When we say design specifications, we establish numbers, the measurable numbers. According to my project and according to my data collections, the power supply required to run the system is this. So when you say that this one, it means it has a power supply or it has a power ratings of 5 volt. So when you say 5 volt, you have already established your design specifications, which can be different from another design. Alright? Right? Let me repeat, because I know some students didn't understand. I say, example that we did, what does it mean? So we need to build a system. And then when we are building this system, then we have 4, which we have been given the same problem. How are we going to differ? We're going to differ on what? On values, on the numbers. Right? Because for example, myself, I said I'll use a sensor, maybe a sensing unit, which it can detect in between maybe 100 meters. Right? While in Saliba say that according in order to solve this problem, I just need actual that maybe whatever. I just need that a sensor which it can detect maybe sound between 50 meters. Right? So having 50 meters and having 100 meters, that's what we call the design specifications. Those design specifications are specifically for your product. Are we together? That's the first one. However, that many teachers, especially departments of electricals, they used to reject it. But that's not a battle to you. It's very important because you cannot come and design that, and that's why you don't know the design specifications. Are we together? Okay. The second one, you have to go and focus on the input. Right? Design on, you have to focus on what? Input. What will be the input? Because your system will be starting on receiving the input, then goes to the processing, then goes to the output. Are we together? Okay. So the second strategic objective we say that now to design. And then some students they used to say that to design and implement. Guys, that's the redundancy. To design what? Design the input unit for me who is generally, or let's say for example their sensing unit. So be careful. Many students they used to say that our sensing unit is what? Okay, maybe our sensing unit, right? So our sensing, so you have your sensing unit. So you say that to design what? The input unit, or we call it sensing unit, in order to detect in order to detecting signal, or detecting cracks for the case of detecting signal. To design the input of sense unity in order to detect maybe pressure, so the signal says signal can be pressure, right, etc., etc. Right? So you have your sense unity, then to design the input, you have to say to design the sense unit. Warning, this is warning. This is warning. So warning, we used to use this, right? Warning. We say that we don't design sensor. We don't design what? A sensor. We are going to buy a sensor. Okay? Are we together? Okay. So we don't design a sensor. So let me just write this sentence because we don't design what? A sensor. But we design a sensing unit. Design a sensing unit. You cannot design the PIR, because as I said that I will design the PIR sensing unit. You cannot design maybe the pressure sensor or the temperature sensor. You cannot design. What you can design the sensing, maybe the temperature sensing unit. What does it about the unit? So you can find that, for example, that this one contains this, just like inky, and this, just like whatever. You see, Are we together? So we don't design what? A sensor. We design what? Sensing unit. Are we together? Bear that in your mind. Sensing unit. Are we together, class? Okay. So then we go number 3. So you see that we see the block of our what? Input unit, which is this one. Right? The steady state now, once we have this input, what will be next? We have to set the control T, then control unit. So number 3, we say that here we can design it. Design. To design what? To design the control unit. You don't design the control. You don't design the controller. You cannot design the microcontroller. You cannot design the Arduino. You design the control unit. When you say unit, it consists of more than one what? Components. Are we together?
Yes.
So to design what? The control unit. Okay, the control unit to control the system. Then the 4 specific objective. Then what happens after the control unit receive? So then we need also to have the well-defined output unit. Okay? Okay, so you say that to what? It's a state. Say that to design it. To design what? Design the output unit. If you know the output unit, in order to do what? Design what? Output unit. Why should you design the output unit? Then it says the reason. Right? Are we together? Then you go ahead next is specific objective now, number 5. Design what? So you can sometimes, if you have so many blocks, maybe 8 or 9 or 10 blocks, you have to recategorize the blocks. You collect the likely what? Blocks. Are we together? Okay. So next we say the number 5 what? So here, this is the transmitter unit, the communication unit, and this is what the receiver unit is what? Okay? So that's the case. So you say that here is what to see. Excuse me. So you say that also to design what? Design of the communication. To design the communication unit. Design the communication unit. So design the communication. When you say communication unit, we have what? Transmitter and receiver. And even there we say that, okay, you have to say, you should not be specific from the beginning. I will use the GPS, how did you know? I'll use the GSM, how did you know? You are working on the experience. Are we together? Okay. So the force of it, the 6 is specific objective. So you can also include it. Okay, so number 6, we still have some other, we can maybe say designing this. We have discussed about communication. So we'll be designing this in this one specific objective. Are we together? And then next we say that did we design the output unit? Yes, this one. It's a force. Okay? The other ones which you can check, because we have 5 strategic objectives now, we have 3 of these, is to design the power supply. You can combine some of the strategic objectives and put them together to design what? The power supply unit. Design the power supply unit to power all the system. Power all the system. But I advise you should have at least 3 to 5 specific objectives. So the way, for example, you have 6, in case you're happy that you listed there 6, don't worry. Find the later in the specific objectives and then make them 1. Are we together? Okay. So then, number 7, this is for the departments of electrical. When the panel members of electrical engineering, they don't see the specific objective that is say that to build and test the prototype, then they consider that you don't have any specific objective. Alright? So it means that the 7 should say that to what? Okay? For all the working of the system. Okay, and then you say that to build and test what? This is the prototype. It's a prototype. The prototype. Test the prototype. So to build it and test what? Build and test the prototype. So in some other departments that they don't have this specific object, but for electrical, really, if you want to make them happy, you have to make sure that you include that. And should be, in most cases, this should be, they recommend you to include it at the end or as a last specific objective. Are we together?
Yes.
Are we together?
Yes.
So these are I told you that the minimum size, at least you should have 3 specific objective of 20 to 5. Or even if that, maybe you can go up to 6. Okay? So, well, as I told you that in these sessions, I'm going to give you the general overview. I want also to tell you, all these specific objectives should be measured. When you want to do the excellent final exams presentation for the projects, or you have an excellent book, right? It's in case that you'll be following these steps. And it is in case that you are going to show each achievement of each specific objective. Listen carefully. What does it mean? For example, that the second specific objective is to say that to design the input or sense unit in order to detect the signal. We have designed this part separate, this one. Right? Once we design, we have to check this output. Alright? After check this output, then we check some other stuff. So it means that again we say that to design what? Design the output unit. And then design the communication unit. So where the communication unit is this one and this one. So at the end of your presentation, you have to test it before your panel member. How does this work? Are we together?
Yes.
So what the output of this input? Have dedicated time ideas to it now for this business. Are we together?
Yes.
Are we together?
Yes.
Okay. So it's the output unit. So you find that okay, so transmitter unit and then receiver unit. So simply that's the case that you have to make sure that you understand. So in case you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comment sections and make sure to subscribe for the notifications of the new video. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the good time. This is the end of lecture 2. Many of my students, they used to be happy once they hear that it's the end of the session. Whether they understand or they didn't understand. But the matter that the session has been ended. So this is the end of lecture 2. I ask you or I invite you to join me in the next lecture when we are going now. I'm going to teach you how you can do the literature review of your project, right? So that the case, we still have so many things to cover. That's why that we ask you to be serious from the beginnings. Also, you can find that you have these videos in your hands, but you've never gone through them. Are we together? So that's the point that I want to make. So if this is the end, I invite you in lecture 3, when I'll teach you about some other concepts or 40 of the project. So I thank God who have created me in his own image and likeness. I thank you who have taken your time and joined me. I really invite you, I really love you and appreciate you, and I'm always praying for all my online undergraduate students, and also I ask you to pray also for me in order for us to work on this perspective. In case you have any questions, we welcome several questions as well as you can. Please send to us in the comment section there. Remember also to subscribe and click the bell in order for you to get notifications once we upload a new video. The end of lecture 2 for the general introductions of the project of the project conceptualization is the beginnings of preparing another concept or another thing that you have to cover. So may God bless you until we meet, and I will invite you in the next sessions, and I believe that you will take this stuff so serious and will impact your departments, will impact your own work, and will use this information also to solve every life. Remember that the main objective of online undergraduate Polytechnic Institute of Tanzania Square Bracket Undegrad is to see our continuing students think how they can use this information and change it into the solutions for the problems that exist in the community. So may God bless you and see you in the next session. Okay, so the point that I want to add before I end this session. In case you have specific objective like this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If your prototype didn't run, was not running, but you was just running half, 50%, it's not running. And also you have to make sure that you achieve at least 3 of this specific objective for you to pass. So if you have 5 specific objectives and just you met 1, I tell you, my dear students, that you're going to fail. Alright? If you have 60, at least 3, or at least 4, or at least 5. Are we together? So you have to make sure that once you have this specific objective are very good, because later on we'll be presenting things according to what you say that you do. Are we together? So stay tuned.